Excuse me, is this the reading room?
Yes, I'm Saad Manzoor.
And I'm Travis Howard.
This is Reading Room Talk. Thank you for pressing play. We have a special guest, very special guest, over here with us from Florida, from Miami. We got Dr. Seth Crapp. How are you today?
I'm doing great, Saad, Travis. It's a pleasure to meet you here and finally get a chance to chat with you.
Yeah.
Yes, I know we were trying to make this happen, so we appreciate you making the time for us.
Absolutely.
But we'll get right to it. You guys take us back to medical school. Tell us, what was your toughest class or rotation in medical school?
Well, it's an interesting question because, medical school is essentially divided 50-50 into classroom, like basic sciences, and then you have your clinical work, which is also academic, like those are essentially coursework you're doing. It's just clinically based. But I could say for me, by far, I'd have to say gross anatomy, which a lot of people probably wouldn't find that difficult.
Oh, hey, man.
And the reason being,
funny.
I'll tell you, is because I never had anatomy and physiology in college as a chemistry major. So
yeah, I see.
That's a lot of gross anatomy is a very major part of the first year, at least when I went under the curriculum I was in.
Yeah,
and
it's volume. It's so much.
It's a lot of volume. Correct.
It's all volume. Now, did you have to dissect your cadavers, or did you get pro sections made for you guys?
Oh no, we dissected.
See, that's so much time.
I'm dating myself.
Nah, I was the same way. It's so much time.
Yeah. So you're dissecting. You're memorizing. I mean, just think about it. Memorizing every single thing in the human body.
Exactly. And
so, did you have a certain part of the body that you focused on? I know there were four of us, and we all had a certain part of the body that we focused on.
I was working more on limbs, so like upper limb, lower limb. And we had a group of four as well. Still, I mean, like everybody's responsible.
For sure.
It's kind of like we had a good group. I mean, I had great study partners. I mean, that's one of the major factors contributing to my success in medical school. Study groups and great study partners and just great friends, to this day. But
you definitely bond because you're there for a long time doing these dissections.
Many hours.
many hours. I think I was like an early adopter of saying that this is kind of useless for me. I was just I can't spend 6 hours trying to get this nerve out when if there's a pro section right next to me, I can just memorize it here.
Yeah.
But people got so upset at me saying that. They were like, yeah, people were so upset at me that you don't want to dissect. I'm like, no, I'm good.
Well, if you thought you were going to be a surgeon or you wanted to be in procedures, that was everything. You were like, oh, my dissection is going to be beautiful. I'm going to be the rising star. I'm going to see how well I'm doing with my hands. Let's go. I'm going to dissect the sural nerve. Everything depends on it. So
for the aspiring surgeons and those, I mean, obviously that's something that's very critical. But I mean, for radiologists as well. So
for sure,
it is
very.
Were you ever interested in surgery? Is that why you chose the limbs, or were you just kind of got assigned the limbs?
Interesting you asked. I did actually consider surgery.
You did.
During my third year, I did consider surgery, and actually. It was where I attended medical school, Meharry Medical College in Nashville.
Shout out.
Yeah, and we have, preceptors, and we have rotations with Vanderbilt University. So the Vanderbilt University surgical residents were house staff at Metro General Hospital, Nashville General Hospital, where we rotated.
Where Meharry rotated, gotcha.
Correct. So I had a lot of exposure, great residents, and they were like, "Hey, you should really consider surgery." And I'm like, this is actually kind of cool. But being more of a cerebral guy, I like technology a little bit more. And one of my really, really close friends, who was a year ahead of me, was very, very much interested in radiology, and said, "Yeah, you should probably think about radiology." So I'm like, radiology, let me look into this a little bit more. And I kind of, tagged on to him, latched onto him, and, ended up kind of really diving more deeply into radiology. So,
let's tell you now, who is this? Who is this person?
His name is Dr. Joseph Morrell. He's one of my best friends. He's a radiologist in the Orlando, Florida area.
Ooh, shout out Dr. Joseph Morrell. I mean, that's what it is. It's information. It's just getting the information. You wouldn't. It's tough to even know about radiology during medical school because you know, you don't really see too much of them. But I guess now there's more exposure. But back then, like you wouldn't even know what a radiologist did. You know, so it's
it's a very good point you make because quite frankly, you know, and Meharry I'm speaking of right now. Meharry more so is a institution that we really focus more on primary care fields, and we do have residency programs. At one point, they had them all, right? Radiology included, but over time, some of those went away. But we definitely have OBGYN, family medicine, you know, internal medicine. Like these different things are more of a focus. So we didn't have a radiology residency program. So you don't have that exposure that you would have down the street at Vanderbilt, right? They have a full, you know, academic department with, you know, 30, 40, 50 professors and maybe probably more and residents and, you know, everything else, a whole, you know, ancillary team of PhDs and research department. And, you know, it's just a lot different when you're at a place that has that. So we actually formulated a student group for a radiology interest group.
Good for you guys. Excellent.
Yeah, the radiology Radiology and Anatomical Sciences Student Organization, or RASO, which is the moniker. And another one of my best friends, Dr. Luther Adair, you know, he and I and a few others, Dr. Nicole Newsom and Dr. Joseph Morrell, we started this with the blessing of our dean and one of the great professors from Meharry, Dr. Arthur Jackson, who was the chair of anatomy department. So
nice.
you know, we created the sort of the infrastructure to educate other students about this and push radiology. You know, that was our goal with that. So
that's awesome. That's
people out to do that.
I mean, you were giving back before you were in radiology. That's awesome. That's really good.
Seth, I noticed that you had a lot of mentors at Meharry, people that really inspires you to, you know, to be great and do all the things that you did. You know, I too wanted to go to an HBCU for medical school. I wanted to go to Morehouse, thought about Meharry, thought about other programs, Howard, most definitely. And I always wondered if there would be some level of, you know, there's an intangible, an inspiration and a motivation you get from those, you know, African Americans that have gone on and done it before you. Can you speak to that? Have you noticed any difference from your other colleagues who maybe went to, you know, non-HBCUs, other universities, and tell me what you think you might have taken from your experience there at Meharry that say I didn't get going to this University of Cincinnati?
Right. Well, I could say that as a minority, you know, African American, in my case, so it's definitely helpful to observe and actually be able to sit down and talk to someone who looks like you, who has achieved what you're looking to try to do, right?
Right.
One thing about, you know, having that exposure and that experience, for instance, the chair of the radiology department, when I was beginning in medical school, Dr. Harold Thompson, so he's now chair of the Nashville, which is affiliated with Vanderbilt. But nonetheless, to be able to talk with him first year, he's coming in doing a lecture during our anatomy course, and you know, you get a chance to really kind of understand, you know, how to not only just conduct yourself, but maybe how to be a mentor on the other side, right, at an early stage. Mm-hmm. So it does make a difference when you're, you know, having a peer mentor or someone who looks like you, as a more senior person. But again, I've had them across the board, but I think it does something psychologically to give you a bit of confidence, knowing that, well, hey, this person can achieve this, so I can do this as well, right?
Yeah,
exactly.
Versus it being more of an abstract concept.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it's something to be said about just having to be intangible like that. And I think also the other thing is, like, when you go to like a, you know, such a historical institution, like, you know that you're making history right when you get there. So you already feel like that you need to like be helping someone else right at that point, as opposed to like, if you go to like a majority institution, you might not necessarily have that same feeling where like, you're like, I'm just going to try to survive. And that's like my only goal. But then like, I feel like if you do go to HBCU, you probably feel like, I'm walking in the, steps of giants, and I'm going to make sure I help, like, even if I'm like a first year, or even if I'm about to start medical school, I'm going to start mentoring already. So I think it's just a different mentality that you have, like going, to an HBCU. So that's awesome. You guys started the group, and it sounds like you guys are all radiologists now. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. The three other individuals I named are all radiologists. Yeah, very successful. Some in private practice. Others in doing more academic stuff. But yeah, no. And that developed also for us a network, right?
Exactly.
So we all stay in touch to this day. I mean, we look to each other for information and resources as well sometimes. So.
That's so good. I love it. Yeah, no, that's the whole point. It's information. The information is what's lacking. So, the whole point of this thing is to try to get the information out there and let people know it can be done and it's doable. And sometimes you just need someone to go through it with you, and you can get it done. So, we'll be here for anyone who wants to make it happen. But tell us more about your childhood. Now, you're from Jersey.
Yeah.
Or born in Jersey, I guess.
Yeah, I was born in Jersey. My parents went to college in New England. So my dad was at Princeton graduate school, and
nice.
My older brother actually was born in Boston because my dad went to Harvard undergrad. So my parents were both in school there. My mom's out of Holyoke, which is in Massachusetts. So.
So much pressure. You had no choice. You had to go to college.
So I noticed a shift from Ivy League over to HBCU. So did you get any pushback, or was there any influence either way?
No. That's one thing I could tell you about. Obviously there's expectations that it's not just my parents. I mean, like my grandmother was a nurse. Both my grandmothers were nurses. I had multiple relatives that went to college, so that is always kind of an expectation that you're gonna at least achieve as high as you can in your academic endeavors, right?
That's awesome. Yes,
we were never under, I would say, that kind of duress or pressure to you have to go here or it's all over type of thing. I think both I have siblings that have all gone to college and so on and so forth. So I think as long as we were educated and pursued what we felt we wanted to do in terms of a career or goals, our parents were happy with that. So
that's great, man. That's
so good. That's so good. Now you grew up in Florida after that.
Correct. Yeah. So both of my parents are from Miami, so they moved back shortly after I was born. So I grew up in Miami. I spent all my formative years there, elementary school and high school and all of that stuff. And high school, got into playing sports. I played some football there. And,
what position did you play?
I played defensive tackle.
Oh, and, okay.
Yeah, was involved in music. My school was Miami Northwestern Senior High School, which was a performing and arts school. So I was also involved in music, So the medical interest kind of came along a bit later, probably during. I was always interested in science. I loved chemistry. Always loved chemistry. I used to, play around, mixing stuff up, getting in trouble when I was a kid, right? But I always loved chemistry. So I always knew I wanted to study some kind of science, but chemistry I was a little bit drawn to that for some reason.
Yeah.
But, during college, my first real, I would say, reality check about wanting to do it, because I was a chemistry pre-med major, because I thought, maybe I want to do pre-med. But my dad's friend, who we went to high school friend, who's a family friend, by the name of Dr. Nelson Adams, he was a Meharry graduate, very successful obstetrician, gynecologist in Miami. He had his own private practice. And I had a conversation with him once about medical school, and he introduced me to, a lot of the concepts and some of the things that are necessary to do, and also about Meharry. That's kind of where I first heard about it, right? So
gotcha.
I always kind of had an interest in going there, so it wasn't just like by happenstance.
Gotcha. Well, that's great. I mean, you got that information. It's good to again see someone like early on. It's like a doctor that you know that went to a college that you're just hearing about. That's it kind of sets mission for you, sets a goal, which is great.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I think if you, I don't have the stats, but I do a lot of discussions around minority participation in medical school, medical sciences, and medicine, right?
Mm-hmm.
Even with my undergraduate, I went to Florida International University in Miami. I've spoken quite, frequently on it and had some panels, discussions about diversity, equity, and inclusion, and so on and so forth.
Yes.
It makes a big difference when you have the exposure, and I can tell you, even from the aspect of a minority. I mean, I had many classmates whose parents, grandparents were doctors, who went to Meharry, right? So it's kind of like these things are not again abstract concepts, like they're real concepts, and they're real ideas that, hey, there's people in my family that are doing this. I can do this. But I think the lack of exposure and opportunity to learn, like you said, the information to learn about these opportunities, and if you are interested in being a surgeon, hey, these are some of the things you can do. This is a book you can pick up. This is a guy who's actually a surgeon that's in your neighborhood. I can introduce you to this person. We lack that. We lack that, and I think that's the difference when you start looking at these statistics.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. Yeah, that's exactly right.
Those generations of medical professionals, successful medical professionals in your family, I think unfortunately, I know that's a rarity in our community, and you're doing the work. You're doing the work to try and increase those numbers, increase that awareness, and get our kids in medicine. That's great, man. It's wonderful.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, for myself, although, again, I had many relatives that were educated, college educated, and even beyond that, but I was like the first, medical doctor in my family. I do have, one of my cousins is also a physician now. He's a few years younger than me. He's an anesthesiologist. But, at that point in time, I didn't have a person in my family that had done it. So, I was kind of like doing this de novo.
I see.
No, it's good. It's good. But
get out.
But at least you knew it could be done. You knew it could be done, which is great. Like that's. Right. I think that's what's kind of lacking is like you knew it could be done, and hopefully, like talking to people who actually went through it, at least you can know that you don't have to be perfect to get through either. I think people kind of get discouraged along the way, where like they feel. Like, if you're just online reading and someone, you tell someone you got a B, they're like, we need to do a post-bac program. You're done. You can't do it. Like that. And I think that's the information that like we try to kind of focus on here, because you don't have to be perfect. You just have to keep going.
Oh, absolutely. 100%. I mean, I by no means had a perfect academic record as an undergraduate. I mean, I feel very fortunate to have had the opportunity to go to medical school. I mean, I had some interviews. I was a non-traditional student because I worked for 2 years as I was really, boning up my, information for the MCAT and, really trying to score very well on that, because I didn't do well when I started taking MCAT practice tests. Yeah. So, I had to kind of take that additional time and, also money. It takes money to apply to medical school.
It ain't free.
It's not free at all.
It is not free.
Yeah,
so
but
that's
I can
good.
tell you, I mean, I had a rough semester or two, and I had to do some kind of summer work to kind of get my academics back on track. But I think those things are this is the iron sharpens iron. Taking the tough road approach. And I think that you learn from those things, and it makes you stronger and more determined. So I think if there's someone who says or who's thinking like, well, maybe I got a C or I didn't pass this class, and I give up. It's over.
Yeah.
No, I would say not at all. You just have to stay determined and stay focused, and lots of what goes into pursuit of a medical education, really is a weed out process.
That's exactly right.
They have to have filters and ways to weed people out, and if you can jump through those hurdles or over those hurdles and through those hoops, you could definitely achieve it. And there's ways to do that. And I think the mentoring and the information is very helpful in doing that.
Yeah, no, that's exactly where it's at. So I agree. I was gonna say, so you ended up in Meharry. Then now, where'd you end up for residency?
So after graduating from Meharry,
and how was the process for applying for radiology? I guess that's the other thing. It's not easy.
Yeah, I can touch on that. Yeah, so I think if we, I was mentioning before, but I can reiterate it. We had a group of us. One of my best friends. We're all great friends, but 4 of us started a radiology interest group, and we start seeking out the small number of Meharry students that had went on to radiology residencies, right?
Yes, exactly. And there's no radiology residency at Meharry.
Correct. There used to be in the past.
Yeah.
But it's no longer in existence.
So it's crazy. Like, you don't even have a home institution. So you had to go basically make those connections to feel like you had a home institution, some place that you can kind of rely on, so you can at least get the information and move on to the next step.
Absolutely. And in addition to that, doing rotations to get, additional just practical clinical experience, we had to go to other places in some cases to do that. So, as a senior or the 4th year when you're applying, you could do electives, and those are like visiting rotations, or, where you go, at your own expense to stay in a city or whatever, to spend some time at an institution where you can observe and learn radiology, right?
And get to know people.
Get to know people and so on and so forth. So those are some of the aspects of it. I mean, applying was a lot of research, a lot of, figuring out, which institutions were, more likely to interview you, or which ones were of more interest than others. Some may have been more receptive than others to people from our school. For instance, they have a track record. Hey, we had 2 guys come here from your school. They're excellent. We'll definitely take another. Versus we haven't ever even heard of your school. So,
it's helpful.
Give you a chance.
Major key. You got to find that pipeline.
Yeah, figuring those things out, and that's where, again, the network and the information comes into play, because again, we started sharing information. So guess what? The person that was a year ahead of me, he shared the information that he had. I shared the information with the people below me. They shared with the people below them. And then you start developing a bit more of a successful. Absolutely.
I like that.
Yeah, it's very, very true. But, I think the application process, just like many other residencies, it's like, it's a trying period for everybody, but it's enjoyable, because once you're successful in getting a residency spot, which for myself, I trained at the University of Florida, which has 2 campuses, one in Gainesville, which is where you see on TV on Saturdays, and then there's another campus, the Level 1 Trauma Center in Jacksonville, Florida.
Gotcha. Oh, that's cool. So how many people were in your residency class?
We had 16 at the time. So they were
16.
Taking about 4. Yeah, 16 total. They had 4 residents.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Oh man, that's what's up. That's really.
What was that like?
So it's interesting, because I could speak for other specialties. I don't want to, but they may disagree. But for me, I would say my opinion is that residency is a on the job training, basically.
That's right.
It's an apprenticeship. Like, hey, you sit next to me, I'm going to show you what to do, and at a certain point, I'll let you start doing it. Right? It's an apprenticeship. So you're an apprentice for 4 years, right? So going through that process was interesting, because there are people who are extremely interested in your success and have an interest in your progression, and then there may be others who may not be as interested, right?
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, in programs, ACGME programs, or they're responsible for educating you and that whole process. So I think when you get into these various programs or residency training programs, I should say, I think you're going to find a wide array of experiences from different people, depending on where they go and where they end up.
That's so true, man. I came across this tweet once. It was a medical student, or maybe a resident. The point remains, the attending had asked them a question, and they didn't know, and they said, "Oh, you should really know this." And so the medical student responded with, "Well, I'm paying X amount of dollars to be here. I'm devoting my time. You are the teacher. I'm actually expecting you to teach me what I don't know." They got a bad review. They got a bad grade, that rotation. But
that's real though.
But they said that the satisfaction was, it was so worth it to be able to just say what we all kind of think on some level, like maybe.
Which is, oh man,
so you have to be prepared, right? You have to be prepared. You have to read up. You have to know what's going to happen. Be prepared.
Yes.
If you don't know something, it's up to the instructor and up to the attending to decide whether or not you should know it or not. And so that subjectivity can drive some people insane. Just gonna put that out there. But it's funny you say that, because you're lucky if somebody walks you through it and then opportunity to show what you've learned, what you've grasped. A lot of times you're just thrown in and graded on and evaluated, and you haven't been taught how to do it.
Exactly. They're basically saying, I'm not doing my job to you, which is like, what? Like, I'm here. That's what I'm here for.
It's a time to shine, though. It really is. That you earn your stripes, and it's a time to shine. So
medicine's funny like that. It's just a weird medicine, doctors. It's very weird.
No, it is definitely. I mean, and again, the point is, it's a great point. I mean, because again, there's different ranges of expectation, right?
Right.
And I'm going to be frank. There's data out here that shows that there's a high level of attrition with minority residents in these programs.
Exactly.
And there's also a severe lack of minorities in some of these specialty programs, right?
Exactly.
So, I mean, you can't tell me that there's only 3% of qualified, African Americans that can be a radiologist.
Exactly.
It's not true. That's right.
But again, I'm not here to demonize or call anybody out. I'm just pointing out the numbers.
No, those numbers don't lie.
If we don't speak truth here, it won't be spoken.
Exactly. Exactly.
Right.
So,
and there's initiatives around this. There's diversity initiatives in the American College of Radiology. I mean, there's diversity initiatives across the board. The Journal of the American College of Radiology constantly puts out survey data about the lack of diversity, and 70 to 75% of radiology applicants being male and non-minorities and all of this stuff the information is out there.
Exactly.
But I think that one problem is not having access to some of these residency programs in some of our institutions. When I say I mean historically Black potentially institutions like the Houses of the World, the Howards of the world, those types of places, but also just wanting to be more diverse. And I get it.
Exactly.
No one's looking for handouts. We're not talking about affirmative action. We're just saying, if you got applicant A, applicant B, same exact everything, across the board, what's going to be that differentiating factor? Oftentimes as human beings, maybe you feel more comfortable, or you may feel, well, hey, maybe this person's a better fit. But what drives those thought processes? What drives those decisions? That's where we really have to dig deeper.
Exactly. And I feel like it was kind of exactly. I was gonna say I think it was kind of tough for any of the minorities who are applying for residency this year, or the last couple of years, I guess, since all the interviews were virtual. So you didn't really get a chance to sit down and talk with people face to face. And if people aren't used to someone who looks like you or acts like you, it's easy just to dismiss them online and just rank them lower, just because they're just not normal to you. So, shout out to everyone who like matched this year and the year past, and hopefully get back absolutely. To like, these actual in-person interviews where like I feel like we just have a greater chance of like expressing our personalities, expressing, like what we can bring to a program. It's something you can't like necessarily, show on Zoom, so hopefully that'll change as well. So,
and I'm a firm believer, as African Americans, we make up 12% of the population. Well, that 12%, you can extrapolate that across professions. So
exactly.
Let's work to achieve, so we can be represented when our patients need us. And I think that's what we all want to shoot for, just great patient care, better patient outcomes. That's well documented, well studied. And so, we have work to do.
Exactly. No, I agree 100%. But we'll definitely have to get you back over here because we're going to have to talk more about what you're actually doing. But we're going to get you out of here on the last question. So tell us more about the music you did when you were in high school, college.
So the music?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We want to know.
Yeah, well, a lot of people don't know unless they know me. But I was formally trained in violin. So I played string. Nice. Probably from, I would say, first grade through like my junior year of high school. I'm sorry. So, junior year of high school. Yeah, junior year. I think I kind of started, moving out of that when I started playing sports. But yeah, I was playing for like a while, like almost 10 years.
That's awesome. That's really good.
Do you miss it?
I can tell you one thing about classical music is it gives you a level of knowledge about culture that a lot of people don't get. And learning about Beethoven and Mozart and a lot of these great composers and some of the Handel and a lot of these musical compositions. It actually helps, and also when I was involved with that, we did performances and I got to go to places I probably would have never been exposed to.
That's great.
Having that experience. I also played drums too. I wasn't that good on drums, but
oh yeah.
That was
you guys got Uncle Luke down in Miami. You got to play the drums, big drums.
That's part of the scene.
I love it. Well, I have one more question actually. So, what do you play in when you're in the reading room? Like, what type of music do you play?
So interestingly, I can't listen to music and dictate. I can't do it.
Really?
It's always been a distraction to me because again, my background, I'm so into music and
you get too much into it. Oh, that's hilarious.
Yeah, it diverts my attention to listening to music. However, I listen to like shows like this. I listen to podcasts. I listen to news.
That's interesting.
Shows, just lightly in the background, like news, roughly, like just some background chatter. It's like background chatter.
Yeah.
It's how I've always been. Even when I study, like I like to study in coffee shops and that because it's just background chatter. So when I'm in the reading room, I listen to news and podcasts like you guys.
Gotcha. Oh, that's awesome. Excellent, man. We really appreciate it, man. We're going to have you back because we have to have you back and talk about, the business aspect, everything you're doing. But we love all the background that you just gave us about everything you've been through and how you made it to where you are so far.
I actually have one question too I want to ask you about. I was reading up on you, Dr. Crapp. You said that you have a motivation to practice compassionate radiology. And I want you to drop some knowledge on compassionate radiology.
Yes.
And what that means to you.
Absolutely. So my company, South Florida Radiology, is a teleradiology company. We do general diagnostic radiology, ER, urgent care, radiology, mostly in Florida, but we work across the country. And I also have a second sub-company called Pediatric Teleradiology Partners that does pediatrics. But for South Florida Radiology, we want to ensure that our clients know, or anybody that we contract with, that we're going to basically treat the patients like they were our family, right? Far too often, I would say, we get into the commoditization of radiology, and it's all about numbers and volume and just, driving out the reports and driving out the numbers. and really you start lacking that personalization of dealing with the patient care aspect of it, because we are treating patients. Like radiologists are not just some machine. We're not just here to look at something and spit out a report. We're actually we're doing patient care, and I want to make sure that that's emphasized to our clients and everyone who we do business with, because that's our goal. We're not just here to make a dime. We're here to treat patients, and I think that has resonated with a lot of individuals, and it's helped to allow us to grow the business.
That's wonderful, awesome, man. And very important too. When you're practicing pediatric radiology, you want that compassionate care. You want that TLC. So that's wonderful, man.
Exactly. Because like once a pediatrician sends them to get some radiology done, they really think something's going on. So that's exactly how you have to treat it. So now where can they find you online and on like any social medias?
Oh, sure, absolutely. So I would say the number one place would be my website, company website, which is www.sflrad.com or sflrad.com, which is for South Florida Radiology. And all of my links are there. I'm obviously on LinkedIn, which is probably you can find me very easily there. But my handle on most of the platforms is Dr._Seth C or Dr._Seth C on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all platforms.
Perfect. Excellent. Now we'll have everyone get at you, and we're gonna have you back.
Yes.
We're not even gonna ask you. We're just gonna call you. Just get you on.
Hey, you got my number. You guys know how to find me. I'd love to come back and share more about the business and not only the teleradiology business, but other business ventures that I'm involved with.
I love it. We're here to learn. We'll be taking notes. Definitely.
Sir. But stay motivated, man. Keep doing the great work that you're doing. We're very, very proud of you, and you're motivating us.
Exactly. No, we love it, man.
I appreciate that, and I definitely appreciate what you guys are doing by shedding light and bringing attention to our colleagues. And I think it's very important work that you're doing, and very happy to join you and be a part of it.
Appreciate it. And thank you guys for tuning in. And, till next time, stay low, keep firing.